I'm so here for it. He's got that infectious smile, and I love anybody that wants to have a good time. So,
remember when he discovered dipping Oreos into milk earlier this year?
Yeah.
It was a real thing.
I mean, it's charming.
Yeah, he's just got this childlike charisma about him. Wendy, Jay Will, good to see you guys. Stephen A. is off. A lot of voices joining us. Mel Kiper Jr. will be here. Dominique Foxworth, Rob Ninkovich, Mike Tannenbaum, all stopping by. We're going to have a lot of fun, but we are starting in the association, gentlemen. Are we ready? And I'm glad to have you both in studio.
Thank you.
So let's go. The Lakers without LeBron James, who's hampered with an ankle injury, and Anthony Davis, who likely will return this weekend. It was all Brody as LA traveled to Dallas to face Luka in the Mavs and took an 18-point loss. This was the Lakers' third straight loss, and they fell out of play-in contention. Tensions boiled. Russell Westbrook getting into this exchange with Brad Turner, veteran Lakers beat for the LA Times.
Now you guys are actually the 11th seed, so you're out of the play-in game. What changes going forward?
Nothing, man. Nothing.
And why is that?
Because it doesn't. It was a change. We still got games to play. Other teams still got games to play. We still got to play teams that's above us in the play-in. Don't really change much.
Thank you, Russ.
What do you think should change?
Winning. Be something.
Okay, that's obvious. What do you think should change?
Winning. Winning games, playing hard. You asked the question, I gave you an answer.
That's fine. You got the answer to winning?
Why?
Do you have the answer to winning?
I'm not out there playing. Maybe I think you give me the answer what you think should be.
Exactly.
So well,
I don't have the answer.
You know,
exactly.
If you don't have it, you out there, I can't have it.
You ask me, think I have an answer. You don't have it either.
Well, but I don't play, Russell. I want to get the information from you so that I can
I'm
give it
only
to
one
you.
person, champ.
Right.
It's a team game,
Right.
so I don't have an answer.
Okay.
I may have it.
I don't have it.
It's all good.
But I'm asking the pros who know the game, play the game, what you think you can do to make it your part, their part, everybody's part.
Sure.
That's what I'm asking.
No, I really that. I respect that.
Okay.
You got that? Y'all got that?
No.
Y'all got it?
No, respect. We
It's all good. You see that? It's good.
We
You see
good.
that? Y'all got that? All right, cool. Y'all got it. Make sure I record that.
The Lakers now have the same record as the Spurs, hold the conference tiebreaker, and could bump LA out of their play-in. It's the first time since October that the Lakers are out of playoff contention. Let me just say this. I've never met Brad Turner. I don't know if either of you have, but I feel like he handled that absolutely
Well, let me tell you two things about
perfectly.
Brad Turner real quick. One, when I first started going to Laker games 20 years ago, Denzel Washington during timeouts would come up out of his courtside seat to talk to Brad about the game.
Yep.
Two, in the offseason, Brad Turner lives in Paris. That's all you need to know.
Sounds like my
about
kind of
how
guy.
about how he handles his business.
Exactly.
Yeah, it sounds like my kind of guy. I'll start with you here. How does Westbrook look after the loss, Jay?
So here's how I want to portray the picture of Russell Westbrook, because I've been on this show multiple times, and I said one of the things that happens in LA, when you lose to this degree, they find alternative storylines to start pushing. And I said that the Russell Westbrook media reality show was going to begin. And that's what has been happening, right? Each and every day, you've been seeing Russell Westbrook at post pressers, and I'm not condoning his action. He's getting frustrated, but it leads to all this type of stuff. It's like a shiny object that distracts you away from the problems that are actually existing on the court. Now, I recognize that a lot of that is self-inflicted, right? I wish that Russell had more awareness where he answered the question properly the first time. There was no need to bark back at him and say, what do you think? And then suck your teeth and go on for that. But that's Russell, right? But I feel like I know who Russell Westbrook is. Russell Westbrook has told me this is who he is his entire career. And it just feels like it distracts us away from the fact that this roster is poorly constructed. Now, I know LeBron James and Russell Westbrook have a lot of dealing with that. It distracts me from the fact that, hey, they don't have shooters. Russell Westbrook is a poor man's version of LeBron James, and I know that's poor man usually knocks somebody, but we're talking about one of the greatest players to ever play the game. You have to surround him with personnel that actually is compatible to how these guys both play. So I hate that this happens because this makes everybody focus on this, and I refuse to let this be Russell Westbrook's legacy. The guy averaged a triple-double for 3 consecutive seasons. He will go down as a Hall of Famer. And this, to me, as a former athlete, proves it's hard to win championships, man. It's hard for everything to come together and click at the right time with the right pieces and the right coach to get these things done. So I refuse to be on this guy on the side that just comes out and annihilates Russell Westbrook today, because I think it's gotten to the point of it's overboard now.
I actually was happy Russell admitted that he doesn't have the answer. Because, and I actually think for the last month, Westbrook's played his best basketball of the year for the Lakers. The last 15 games, Molly, he's averaging more points, his shooting is up, his turnovers are down. It's still not what the Lakers wanted, but it's better. He's actually played better. And so I feel like this last month, Russ has actually kind of more come to terms with his situation. It's not going to help the Lakers this season. It's not going to help them last night. I mean, it's already over. But one of the things that was frustrating me about Russell, and one of the reasons why I don't think he was a sympathetic figure for a lot of this year, is because he was so hard-headed about everything. He's out there still playing the same way he was playing when everything was failing. So the fact, I mean, if you look at his numbers from November and December, I mean, he was averaging 5 turnovers a game. You look at the way he's played the last month, it's like, it's livable. And so I actually think if Russ had acted and handled his business this way back in October, November, we might be having a different conversation right now.
2 questions for both of you. How do you see him as a sympathetic figure now?
And that's the thing, like, he was really upset.
Especially after that exchange.
It's mostly more from where he was, Molly, because, you know, the Westbrook thing.
Yeah.
He was frustrated because even though he was having this miserable season, the fans were all over him. And the reason the fans were all over him is because he wanted to be in LA, and they came and he wouldn't stop shooting. He refused to stop shooting. He refused to stop trying to bank in those shots from 18 feet. And he got to the point where the only way he could really get sympathy was to mention his wife and son, because they are sympathetic figures. But he just wasn't a sympathetic figure this year because of the way he handled his business, the way he was defiant. And that's not a surprise. That's how he's been his whole career. But I actually kind of saw him as being a little bit vulnerable, at least by the Russ standard last night.
I don't feel sorry for Russ, because when you use the word refuse, that is still who Russell Westbrook is to me. And I sometimes feel like it's my job on this platform to try to give people insight into some of these special traits of Russell Westbrook that sometimes I feel like we forget, because this is part of a car accident that we like to pour more gasoline on, because when we see fire, more gasoline, more gasoline. Once again, some of this is self-inflicted by Russ himself with the way he handles media. I am not making excuses for that. But that same relentless refusal to quit, refusal to stop shooting, you know how many people in life refuse to do things because they're told they can't do it? Or it's a little bit too hard. I'm not gonna be who I am. Or I'm not gonna continue to fight for it. At least I love that about him. At least he wears his emotions on his sleeve. Like, we used to have things against athletes before where, well, I wish athletes would just tell us how they feel.
He's talking about it becoming a sympathetic figure. Because you're basically showing
saying
sympathy
he's being authentic, and he is who he is, and he's staying consistent regardless of the media reaction. But let me ask you this, because you brought up his legacy, and what I'm curious of, what was his legacy prior to coming to the Lakers, and what do you think it's becoming now? Because you said, I'm not buying into this legacy. What is that?
Well, I'm not buying into how people are trying to create a legacy that he's a loser. Like, that's the direction it feels like it's going. Russell was 101. I mean, the guy averaged a triple-double for 3 consecutive seasons. And just look at the numbers. At the end of the day, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Does that equate into winning a championship? Did it equate into winning a championship for Charles Barkley? Do I think less of Charles Barkley because he didn't win a championship? I know the common everyday person will say, well, you never won anything, but Charles Barkley is still a Hall of Famer. And I think that we sometimes lose sight of how special of a player Russell is. Does it come with some of his flaws? Sure it does. But it still doesn't take away from how special he is on the court.
Yeah, Charles Barkley, also my favorite person on TV. Let me ask you this, Wendy. We'll move it forward and go on the court. What is the likelihood that the Lakers now miss the play-in?
It's getting very likely, actually, because I don't think LeBron is going to play tomorrow in Utah. AD likely not play tomorrow in Utah. Maybe they come back this weekend. Utah just had a miserable loss to the Clippers last night. I expect Utah to try to easily win this game.
Yeah.
So that means that they're probably going to be even now 2, because they're tied, but they're really a game back because they're a tiebreaker. That means they're probably going to be 2 back. And San Antonio, the next 2 games, they play Memphis tonight, but the 2 games over the weekend, they play the Blazers at home. They beat the Blazers in Portland by 30 last week. I mean, the Blazers are not a good team, or the Spurs are not a good team either. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the same record as the Lakers. But by the end of the weekend, by the time AD comes back, maybe on Sunday, Lakers could be down 3, Molly, with the hardest schedule left. And now, I respect AD and LeBron, and like maybe they put the hammer down and maybe they but like at this point, even saying they finished 500 would be, I mean.